Hello everybody and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the sofa. My name's Paul and this is my kind of slim shady sidekick, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane. Now go ahead and make sure those sofa seatbelts are buckled up because this one's gonna be a rumbling ride today. Now look, you saw the thumbnail, okay? We are going to be talking about the Lori and Chad Daybell case today. Specifically, we're going to be talking about someone who is involved in the case. Her name is Zulema Pastenes. Now, what we're specifically going to be doing is we're going to be looking at an interview that she did with her lawyer and a couple of detectives. You'll recognize them from other interviews. This information was released to the public a few months ago. Now it is a long one, okay? And it has taken me a hot minute to get to it and be able to have the time to like go through it or whatever. So this ain't no breaking news is what I'm getting at. So also, before we even get into anything, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer. I ain't a doctor and lawyers and stuff. If you know, you know. So this is just me, my sofa, my little doggy Roscoe, and my 2 cents worth of opinions. Okay, now here is the thing. Zulema is her husband was Alex Cox. So her late husband was Alex Cox. Alex Cox was, however you want to say it, the brother of Lori Daybell. Alex, as we know, if you're following this case, is no longer with us. But don't let those labels of little Zulema fool you. She's so much more than that. She knows how to cause quite the rumble, if you will, with her God-given powers. So Zulema had quite the interesting insights to give us into her experience with Lori and Chad and Alex and Melanie and all sorts of people in this interview. Also, I was curious to hear what she had to say about that really bad, cringy body cam footage of when Alex passed and she was there at the house. I mean, it didn't look good for her. Spoiler alert. So what we'll do with today's video is kind of like how we do with some of these interrogation videos that I do. We're just going to be looking at various clips. So we will be viewing some of the body cam footage. We'll also be taking a little visit to Melanie Gibb. And then for the majority of it, we're just going to be looking at different clips that really stood out to me of this interview that she did. And I'm just going to kind of make some commentaries about what I see, what I think, that kind of thing. Again, this is all my opinion. I'm not any kind of professional in the way of a doctor or lawyer or anything like that. So it is what it is. Now, before we do jump into all that, thank you to everybody who makes the sofa possible. It would not be here without you. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you want to check out my other channels, I do have my scary movie channel. You can check that out if you want to see me dish on like scary movies, that kind of thing. And I do have Patreon and channel membership if you want to see some of my videos like story times, personal things, Florida man headlines, stuff like that. That's all there. So all that's in the description. Check it out. Go ahead and bugger your damn seatbelt because we're ready to rumble. Okay, so just a little bit of context, right? So Zulema, like I said, she was married to Alex Cox. Now, they got married in November of 2019, okay? Like, less than 3 weeks later, he dies in her home. Now, again, if you're following this case, you'll know all of this stuff was going on around this time. The children are missing. That time, of course, we didn't know, the public, whatever, didn't know 100% like what exactly was going on. There was still that going on. But regardless, these people who were like in this inner circle of Lori and Chad's, people are missing, people's spouses are passing away, crazy stuff, right? And so these interviews that took place that we've just recently seen, they kind of exposed some of this of what was taking place and why they are claiming that none of this raised red flags, all that kind of stuff at the time. Okay. Now, when this body cam footage was released, and again, the body cam footage is of, police, paramedics, people like that at the home on the day that Alex passed. Some of it they're talking to her adult children, that one of them lived there, a couple of them just went over to visit. Other ones, they're talking to Zulema. Other ones, they're sitting there on the phone, like the kids have the phone, they're talking on speakerphone, the cop or whatever. So that dynamic right there, when we all heard that, and if you haven't, you'll hear some clips of it today, really raised eyebrows, right? Because we were like, who even thinks about these things that she's talking about when their spouse has passed away? But obviously there was a whole bunch of other red flags going on besides that. So let's go ahead and just start off with some of that body cam footage. Now again, this footage is blurred out, so it's mostly the audio that we're going for here, right? And one of the things I guess that concerns me, or that I was like, huh, is her range of motion, okay? How she can go from this right here.
You're doing good, just keep breathing, okay? I don't know. That's what Mike is probably one of our best paramedics.
He was blue when I walked in.
What's that?
He was blue when I walked in until I started doing compressions. He was blue on the face.
But then, not that long later, we end up here.
Hello, my name is Mark Ward. I'm a sergeant with the Gullibility Police Department. Who am I speaking with?
You want to bring him in?
Yeah. Zulema, what can I do for you, ma'am?
Now, regardless if the people doing the investigation of the house, all this kind of stuff, knew these grifters or not, right? The fact that she's asking them to wait outside, my mouth was on the floor. I was just like, who even does that, right? Now, we're also where this will become more prevalent is in this interview we're going to be going over, how she tries to play all this behavior off, right? Even when she allegedly has this deal going and all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, there's no playing that off. Now, I am also not someone to sit here and say, well, people should sound this way when they're in trauma or whatever, right? I don't like to do that. But when I was listening to her talk in the first clip we watched, where she was like, is he gonna be okay? And to me, it just, I was like, this doesn't sound real. Now again, that's my speculation. That could be how she sounds, you know what I'm saying? I'll give her that. But to go from that to this right here, I'm just like, oh, that's just not a cute look. Now, all that being said, though, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's just find out why she wants him to wait outside. Maybe she has a good reason.
My kids are already going through enough trauma as it is without you guys standing right next to them. I have one of my children, two of my children, all three of my children suffer of anxiety, and you guys are not going to making it any better right now.
Okay, so all of her children have anxiety, and the cops are making it worse. Gotcha. Never mind the fact that her daughter will go on to say that she moved out of the home when Alex moved in because her mother has a history of doing this with guys and letting them move in, and she didn't want to go through another ordeal like this. Yet that's not anxiety inducing. Never mind that you left your son there alone with Alex, who, sure, they were getting along and all that kind of stuff, but they really didn't know each other that well. And then on top of it, Alex wasn't doing well to begin with, right? And then never mind the fact that when she's sitting there saying, you know, oh, y'all are causing more anxiety, you know, you're making this worse, she sounds so flippant and entitled, which is just a running theme with all these people in this case. Now, also, above all that, right, my whole thing is this. I'm like, your husband just died in your home, okay? Under pretty bizarre circumstances, right? But even let's just say like all that wasn't going on. Your husband just died in the house. Most people would be like, oh my God, absolutely. Should they go outside in the car? Like, you know, the kids are traumatized. Should they go in the car? Can they do that? What do y'all need to do, right? This is someone hiding something, right? These are the responses that are coming from her. She doesn't sound like she's under duress to say these things. These sound like someone who is hiding something and does not want the cops around, who has also probably had experiences, as we know she has, with police officers. So this just smells to me like I am hiding something. I don't want y'all to find it out or get any more information. But let's see what the cop says.
Okay. Okay. So we're definitely not trying to make things worse, ma'am. We're not trying to have anybody feel bad or be anxious, but someone died in your house today, and we're not going to leave your house until we finish that investigation. So, and we're going to secure it while we seek a search warrant from the judge. And if the judge grants it, then we'll conduct a search as necessary to finish the death investigation.
Again, her tone of voice, the fact that she was ballsy enough to even say this to the police, right? Especially knowing what she knows. Now, she can try and play it off all she wants, like, well, I didn't know this. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. My personal opinion is she knew so much that was going on. So, to take that tone of, get out of my house, basically, I'm just like, really? And I love that the cop is like, no, sorry. You know what? We'll get the search warrant, and we're going to sit here, and no one can move freely about the house. They can sit on the sofa, and he'll keep reiterating this back to her and reminding her, hello, your kids are grown adults. 2 of them showed up on their own will.
If the judge doesn't, then we will leave. But for right now, we're going to stand by in the house and control individuals' movements in the house. They're not required to stay here, so if they'd like to leave, they are free to leave. But we will not be leaving the house at this time.
Again, thank you. I mean, these are grown adults, you know, they can step outside. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? Clearly something's up. And one reason I wanted to start here is just to, again, if you've been following this case, just to kind of remind us and give us a starting point of, this is where we started, okay? It doesn't get much better for her here on out.
Let me ask you this. So, why are you saying that someone died in the house when he wasn't even pronounced dead until he was in the hospital?
I remember the day that my dad died, and it was him, you know, leaving our house in an ambulance, right? Died at the hospital kind of thing, right? Now, mind you, we didn't have a bunch of mysterious, you know, deaths going on around us or anything like that. But I'm just like, the last thing that would have been on my mind was this right here. Now, they didn't want to search our house and do that kind of stuff, right? It was pretty clean cut what had happened, right? We didn't have current investigations going on, all that stuff. But regardless, again, I'm just like, when we get later into the interview, how she'll try and play so much stuff off, like, almost trying to normalize this behavior, right? Where it's like normal people in normal situations with normal things going on, and I usually don't like to use the word normal, but for God's sakes we have to here. They're not worried about this stuff, right? They're not concerned about correcting a police officer about where exactly someone died. I mean, it doesn't. She is trying so hard to keep them away from that house.
Well, the incident started here. I get that he was pronounced deceased at the hospital, but all of that started here. It didn't start in the hospital, it started in this house.
Now, again, one theme that we'll see throughout the interview that we're going to do, and we kind of see it here, maybe not specifically in this clip, but she does it throughout here, where she has to pause a lot to come up with the next question or the next statement. That type of situation where she's really having to mull over like a concocted response.
Your children that are here are adults and they're free to leave. We're not holding them here, but we are going to hold the house while we seek the search warrant.
Now, again, like I said, I love that the cop comes back and continually tells her this, that her children are grown adults, they're free to leave. It also just makes me really wonder, what is in his house? You know, besides, we know that he left money, right? We know there's guns, stuff like that. I mean, maybe that was it or whatever. But it just, her reaction to this is so curious. And I would just love to know what exactly was going through her mind. What information in there is, what was it that she was trying to hide so desperately?
Okay, I have no need to speak to your lawyer because it's not going to change anything, but you're more than welcome to give him a call. You have every right to.
Now, remember this lawyer part, because in the interview when they get to this part about why would someone need a lawyer and da-da, she stumbles all over this. And again, at this point in time, it's like if she was trying to not look guilty, I mean, at this point where I'm going to get a lawyer, I mean, really? Come on. But these are the kind of people they're dealing with, right? Now, all that being said, I also go back to the daughter who was like, I'm moving out of here. Mom's got another man coming in, da-da-da. And, you know, the mother, oh, y'all are causing anxiety. And this is a prime example of, look at what she has probably put her children through during their lifetimes, right? This level of complete unnecessary drama and trauma and BS. Now, before we get to the interview, let's just look at one more clip from that day in regards to their little friend Chad.
He was talking to one of my friends on the phone because he said that he wasn't feeling well, so my friends said that they would give him a blessing. So they were giving him a blessing over the phone. And then my friends texted me and said, you better get home now.
Now, of course, at this point, we know this friend to be Chad. To me, this whole blessing stuff that they go on and on about, I mean, my God, can you imagine sneezing at the dinner table there? You'd be there for an hour with blessings. But the blessing thing, in my opinion, it feels very last rites. It feels very, you need to do what you're about to do. You go to kingdom come, whatever you want to call it, okay? Now, before we do the interview, let's take one quick look at Miss Melanie Gibb and a couple of things she had to say about Saucy Zulema.
So what was your gift that brought you into that circle? What was your gift? Because each person in the circle had a gift.
Nobody
right?
really had a gift until they stepped. It seems like they had a gift all of a sudden when they stepped into the circle. Does that make sense? Like there was no gift outside of it except for Zulema. Zulema seemed to be the one that had the gift of moving the earth, because she seemed to that visionary stuff she could see. So she's the only one that I knew of that had that kind of gift.
You know, that just Chad Gibb's ass. And I'm sorry, but for someone who could part the damn seas and see it coming from 5 miles away, she missed several things on her low radar. But I digress. Let's go ahead and jump into that sorry little interview.
Are you tired of meeting with us yet? That's okay. Be honest.
It's not about being tired about meeting with you guys. It's it's kind of like I think of it in my mind. It's like an aquarium, and when you go your hand on the bottom, and then all of a sudden all this stuff comes up. So it's the stuff that comes up.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Brings up all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah.
doubt and memories and and connections, and then you like it out,
Yeah. No, I get it.
And then you just like start beating yourself up because how could I ever done anything like this, or get involved with people like this, and how could I be deceived so much, and how could I be so stupid?
If I was the people in the room, including her lawyer, I would have been like, my God, she is exhausting, right? Like, this is gonna be a long day. So, a few things right off the rip. The self-soothing, the aquarium analogy, I mean, come on. I was like, girl, this is real complicated, okay? We get it. You got some issues, okay? Move on. Now, she, like everyone else that we've seen in these things, is like completely distancing themselves. How could I be deceived? I would never normally believe this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. Now, also, my thing is, she talks about this stuff like, I'm like, what, were you married 2 decades? I mean, my God, right? It's like this, we're not talking about a huge amount of time here. Mind you, so much went on, I get that. But I mean, you would think, and maybe in their world they were, I just now thought of it, they could have been married hundreds of thousands of years in their world. I correct myself.
So, Zulema, as we've been going over things, we've been going over reports that you have given to Gilbert initially with Alex's death. And some of those statements that you gave them don't match what you gave us the last time we talked. So I just wanted to clarify kind of why you told them something completely different. Okay?
So I love that they don't waste time. They get right to the point. Things ain't adding up. What's up?
Was this the day that Alex died? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that day is of interest, along with many others. Pretty much every single day you're involved with these people, probably before that as well. Now, this is where some of the clips we watched earlier of the body cam footage will come into play. Also, some of the interviews that she gave on that day, like the transcripts or whatever. I'm going to put a link down below if you want to read through them. Because the information that she was saying there, like the stuff they're going to start going down and checking off a list here, I'm like, it ain't looking good for her.
So do you remember anything that you told those guys as far as Lori and Chad? Or...
Very, very little. I don't remember much of what happened. To tell you the truth, there is a part of, like, between, like, 2 weeks there, that there isn't much, it's very foggy for me.
I can't roll my eyes hard enough at this one. Here's the thing. I get that in trauma-based situations and stuff like that, like we can have like, okay, I don't have any memory of this or that. But literally the vibe that I felt, she was like, what days are we talking about? Okay, those 2 weeks. You know what? It's funny. I know it sucks, but those are the exact 2 weeks that my memory is a blank. I mean, she's really covered herself here. I can't put a timeline together. I can't remember this. In fact, I don't know why we're here.
Let me just preface this. We're just trying to eliminate some of the things maybe defense for Lori and Chad are going to bring up during trial. Okay? And part of that defense could be that they try to pin this on other people, right? So, or make you not look as credible as what you are in case you have to testify.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for us to make you look credible and to use what you say in court, we want to kind of jump out ahead of any type of defense that they're going to bring up.
key words in this is try to make you look credible. Now, as we've seen with these other interviews, these other players in this game, Hermosillo is very good about being like, look, we're trying to get ahead of the defense. We're trying to, knock this out, which I get it. Okay, awesome, right? So one thing that I just find prevalent, and I'm like really specifically thinking of Gibbs and her, Zulema, is part of me, I'm like, do they have any idea what they're going to go through on the stand? Now, especially since who is no longer on the case, I think we're going to see it progress much more quickly now, right? There's going to also be like a level of, less clownery going on, if you will. Just the absurd filings and all this crazy stuff that's been going on, right? And I'm just like, they're gonna rip them to pieces on the stand, right? They won't last 5 seconds. You can just sit here in these interviews and it's like, come on. Also another thing is, I hope that whatever the state's case is, that this is just like a little part of it, right? Because obviously if these people are going to help put Lori and Chad away, okay, great, right? We don't want them to be completely torn apart in the stand, right? Because we want that to happen. But I just feel not so confident in these witnesses or whatever. So we'll just have to see. And one reason I feel less confident, especially with Zulema, is how much she still seems to be lying. To me, I'm just thinking like, somebody with some form of a deal or something like that, I would expect them to be a little bit more transparent, less wishy-washy, less still trying to reel things in and like, what lie did I tell on what day? I can't keep up with it.
And so when we were going over Gilbert's reports, there's some things in there that you said that you told us about when you last talked to Chad and Lori, and about when I'll just come out and ask you. You told Gilbert that you had no idea how to get a hold of Lori and Chad when they asked you who Alex was on the phone with. Can you tell me why you told him?
So right off the bat, he's asking the hard-hitting questions that we all want to know. Now at this point, we know from others' interviews and even Zulema's, own statements contrary to themselves, she was knee-deep in this stuff. Damn well might still be. Oh no, right? But just from a little bit of these things here, it's like, okay, so some of the statements she made for this day with the Gilbert Police Department, Alex has 6 siblings, but he's barely in touch with them. Lori's number was disconnected. I've only met Lori a couple of times. On and on. And then as the story unfolds more, you're like, yeah, that's absolutely a lie.
I wonder why I would have said something like that, because I told them that they were on the phone with him.
Right, and they asked you how to get a hold of him. And in your statement, you said you had only met Lori a couple of times before she moved.
Again, we see this backtracking, this distancing, this silence, trying to think of something. Well, why would I have said that if Alex was on the phone? Immediately reverting it away from her, right? Onto something else. Like, well, he was doing this, and that doesn't make sense. Now, we heard the evidence, the tape speaks for herself, right? She was adamant about not wanting them there, right? Completely not being helpful, so on and so forth. Now she's in a situation because she has to, right? And she's having to try and backtrack, and I just feel like instead of being like, okay, look, I'm just gonna lay it all on the table. I was afraid of A, B, and C. I didn't know what these crazy people did, whatever, even if that's not the truth, right? But like, there's so many different ways you could go about this than this. But I wasn't trying to claim she was the sharpest tack in the drawer.
Yeah, I don't remember saying that.
Well, let's look at those statements.
Yeah.
Thank God the attorney came to her rescue. And it's painfully cringy, right? Because you're like, because it's almost like everyone's sitting in the room like, honey, we get it, okay? We're just trying to move forward at this point with this situation, right? And not even 5 minutes in the interview, first few questions, her bag's painted against the wall, right? And this isn't even on the stand. This is what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I don't have confidence in this.
You didn't think Lori was married, right? Did you know she was married at that point?
Yeah, I did know that she was married. Let me put it this way. I saw the pictures of them on the beach. Her dressed in white, him dressed in white, and they were dancing and kissing
Right.
and all of
We've seen
that.
we've seen all the pictures, yeah.
Right. So I assumed, it was assumed that that was a wedding ceremony.
One thing that I noticed about this lawyer, especially in this clip where he's like, yeah, we get it, the pictures. It's almost like he's just like, just please shut up and just move along. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is absolute absurdness. But again, like we see it so often in this, there's so many assumptions in this. Oh, I assume that they were married, whether she did or not, we'll never know, only if she will. I assume they were married, because they were dressing out in Hawaii. And I mean, again, I'm kind of like, okay, like maybe in shock and horror I would have been, but that's so abnormal. Look at what just happened, right? And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're married now. Even like in her world, to see that that is a normalized thing is concerning. And also, I just keep coming back to her. I'm like, girl, I thought you could like see this kind of stuff.
When you told him, what else did she say in that statement that she hadn't talked to him in a while? What was that statement about?
That you had only met Lori a few times.
Well, obviously, that's inconsistent with what she's told you guys.
Now, again, I like how they're trying to get down to business here. Like, okay, what was the inconsistent statement? Okay, that's that. Let's get down to this. Yada, yada, yada. Now, obviously, there's so many of them, right? I mean, there's just that. Now, again, one thing I come back to her with these statements, which I personally think they're having to go light on her a little bit because this is their witness and they're trying to get ahead of this and they don't want to shut her down, even whether she has to testify or not. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like this, we're trying to get her to relax and open up and give us information and da-da-da. But again, I'm just like, if you really were so naive, like she claimed a few minutes ago, and how could I have been taken and all this, her initial reaction was to just lie, which just tells me, well, how much she was in this belief system. But then the inability to sit here and kind of even backtrack on that now to say, I was trying to protect him. I was really thinking this. It's just very interesting, also very telling to me.
So those are the type of things that defense is really going to probably ask you.
Yeah. So I didn't, when they left Rexburg, they didn't tell anybody where they were going. Not even, even Alex was trying to find out where they were at, and he had asked them where they were at, and they wouldn't disclose where they were at.
I give her less than 60 seconds on the stand, okay? Less than 60 seconds. First of all, these long-winded stories that we're going to hear for simple questions, and it's just like, my God. Now, another thing that I find so interesting is because Hawaii was such this big thing for them, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, we know Lori was going down there pre-Chad, all this stuff. So this is like this huge thing. And I'm just like, did y'all not figure out that's where they were at? I find it very hard to believe that they truly didn't let anybody know where they were going, and they were that cut off from that. Especially as we'll learn that Zulema sounded to me more like a right-hand gal kind of a thing. I mean, she had the most important mission, so on and so forth.
So you had no idea they were in Hawaii?
No.
What about the times you guys conference called?
When we were talking on the phone, they wouldn't say where they were at.
Again, I just feel like he lets these, Hermosillo is who I'm talking about, he lets these little bits of, I can't believe this.
So when they left from Rexburg, they didn't disclose where they were at. How I found out that they were there is when they were on the news.
Okay.
You can hear a damn pin drop in there. For me, you can hear in his voice that he's like 100%, I am not behind this at all. And again, I just go back to where I'm like, how, just that alone. You're dealing with these people who are traveling, all this commotion's going on around them. You're having conference calls with them and they refuse to tell you where they're at. I mean, hello?
Because there's some... So, back in the reports, I don't know if I have that with me. They had talked to you and Melanie Boudreau about going to Hawaii after they were married. Is that not true?
This was when,
So here's the other part too. So when we see him putting that pressure on a little bit, and again, he's being gentle with her compared to what's going to happen on the stand, right? she can't hold up to it even in this gentle baby questioning right here. Oh, well, and the long pauses and the thinking of the answers, and it's very obvious, and I'm just like, yeah, there's been too many lies that have been told along the way, and it's like very clear she's having a very hard time keeping up with them.
I can't remember when he was, I remember them saying that. So hold on, let me see if I can put a timeline on that.
Our timeline that we have has that roughly in.
So she goes to her phone, which to me is like a crutch for her Gibbs, these other people that we see. Always wanted to go to the phone or whatever. But again, like I said earlier, this had always been discussed around, right? So it's not a far leap to say maybe they're in Hawaii. And again, that's on the assumption that she's telling the truth and that nobody ever told them, and oh, this is for y'all's protection and da-da-da-da-da.
To be clear, they didn't tell you they were living there yet, right? I mean,
No.
This was them for a wedding. They came back after this, right?
They came back after this.
And then it was long around Thanksgiving that they vanished.
Right before Thanksgiving.
And is that when you didn't know where they went?
That's when I didn't know where they went, yes.
So when she's saying come to Hawaii, it wasn't, hey, we're living here, come move to Hawaii with us.
But I believe they had conversations saying that after they got married, they were moving to Hawaii.
Okay. With Zulema?
And Melanie Boudreaux.
Okay. No, I don't know about Melanie, but...
And so that's why I was wondering, when it comes to the Gilbert reports, you say you have no idea where they're at or how to get a hold of Lori, or you've only met Lori a couple times. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Where there's a discrepancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why we want to talk about that, and I wanted to know why you had told.
So again, here this whole level of forgetfulness and the blaseness, and almost like treating it like it's something, distancing herself, like that is odd. I don't know why I would have done that. Instead of just saying because I was protecting them, having that conversation now because I feel like the conversation's gonna happen, right? And it's gonna be on the stand, and it's not gonna look good. All of this information just in this little bit, and obviously what we've seen from them piecing together, and they know stuff that we obviously don't, right? So all of this is showing these deeper relationships, and that's where I think that these people getting up here and trying to play it all off and whatnot, I think our mouths are going to be on the floor when and if this finally goes to trial.
And before I don't want you answering something about having potentially misled Gilbert Police Department until I hear the statement. I think what she's told you guys is the truth.
Right.
And that's what the agreement was, is that she was going to come in and tell you guys the truth.
So again, point of interest, that's what the deal was, he says. She's telling y'all the truth. She might have been misleading with Gilbert. She's telling y'all the truth, kind of thing. Which I'm like, hey, great, fine, Denny, that's what we need for her to do to convict these people. But it's like she's still not doing it, right? She's still backtracking. And again, it just goes to show, and I think this is what will end up happening, is how involved people like her were, these other people, how involved in, whether it was just the belief system or whatever, time will tell, right? But also how they're going to probably not end up being great witnesses, because I think that just from what we've seen, they're going to be able to be torn apart very easily.
If you in fact did make that statement, and if you did, why you made that statement.
Do you remember making that statement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When in doubt, just forget. So let's take a look at some of her selective memories surrounding the statements, the discussions, whatnot, on the day that Alex Cox passed.
I don't remember. I remember going to the hospital. I remember them putting me in a ambulance, and they took Alex in another ambulance. And I remember them taking us to the hospital. And I remember they started working with him, and then they put me in a room. And I don't remember much of what happened between that and until the time that they brought me back to the room for me to turn off the machines.
But now, of course, we'll go a little bit deeper than that and get a little more closer to the truth. Now, one thing that she also does that, in my opinion, is as she goes, and like there's some stuff that she'll be like specific about that's like, okay, whatever, maybe that's just how the human brain works, I don't know. But then there's other stuff that it's like, if she can't really back out of it, this is where she'll kind of use the card of, oh, that's blurry and fuzzy, or oh, something of this nature, like the get out of jail free card.
I don't remember when I was taken back there, I don't remember whether someone was, the person that came to talk to me, was it before or after that? I don't remember, and I can't put it together. I can't not put it together.
Okay.
Now, again, some of this could be normal during traumatic events, adrenaline, events, that kind of thing. I get that. But I just feel like coming from her, it's mostly BS.
And I remember coming out of the room, and my son-in-law came. And I remember him saying to somebody who was there, we're going to get a lawyer right now, so speak to our lawyer. And then I remember leaving. But I don't remember when that happened. You know what I mean? There's no correlation there for me.
Now, to me, this is where things get kind of interesting, right? Because now, again, one thing that's in common with her is she's blaming somebody else. Oh, my son-in-law said that we're going to get a lawyer. Now, again, remember the tapes that we heard earlier, right? This sounds like somebody who has their own opinions of the police and all that without somebody else helping them out, right? So whether the son-in-law, regardless if the son-in-law's one that said it or not, again, so much deflection comes from her onto other people that you just at one point have to say, are you responsible for any of your own actions? Now, things are getting pretty, this is a pretty, so her lawyer will end up getting up and walking out of the room for, quite a little spell, right? So, of course, the detectives aren't allowed to talk to her about this kind of stuff while they're gone, so they make small talk. So much of the small talk is centered on the weather, and I was like, oh my God. I was waiting for her to be like, well, hold on, I brought my spoons with me. Let me start playing a little ditty on my knee and whip some sunny weather and temperatures up for you. I mean, the last thing that I would have done, if I was known for, earth, wind, and fire, I can make a good earthquake, at the drop of a hat, I would not be talking about weather, right? That would have been the one thing I would have been like, don't say anything about the weather, don't say anything about the weather. Isn't it nice out today? Damn it! But eventually the attorney does come back in, and they continue on with the hard-hitting questions.
So let's talk about the bag of cash that Alex gave you. Do you remember when he gave that to you?
He didn't necessarily give it to me. He just a couple of days before he passed. I don't know if it was 1 day or 2 days before he passed. He said to me, Zulema, if anything happens to me, I want you to know that there is money in a bag in the closet, and it's for you. He said it's not much, but it's for you.
So a couple of days before he mysteriously dies, he starts telling her about this cash that he has. I believe it was $5,000 to $7,000. So again, red flags all over the place, right? 100% red flags. If I was her, that would have been okay, well, what's going to happen? What about this money? It also makes me wonder if, honestly, if that was one of the things, and the guns and that kind of stuff, that she was weird about them searching the house for, right?
Okay. And did you ever count the money that was in there? Or know how much was in there?
Well, when before he passed away, no, because I just said whatever, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to touch his money. But after he passed away, I asked the police to bring it down, and my daughter and her boyfriend started counting it. They did.
And how much was in there?
I think that there must have been about probably between $5,000 and $7,000 or something like that.
Okay.
You can't tell me she didn't count that down to the last damn penny the second she could. Okay, but then also interesting, again, notice she never does anything herself. My daughter and her boyfriend counted it. You know what I mean? Her son-in-law wanted the attorn't. The kids are upset. Literally gaslights everything around her.
Do you remember what else was in the bag?
I still have the bag.
Do you still have everything that was in it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
It was a bag. He had it in a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure, the money was in a Ziploc bag?
Mm-hmm.
In another bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what else is in there? I've looked through that thing like I don't know how many times, and now for the life of me I can't remember what's in there.
Now, of course, we get our trademark pause, think of what to say, all that kind of stuff. All this memory around this bag. And I'm just like, how do you not remember what was in the bag? You know what I'm saying? Except for the headphones, right? I remember the headphones, and she gets so slippery about the gun stuff. And, what that was in, no, da-da-da. Her answer is so complicated about how the bag works, and it doesn't need to be, right? And these are the things that she doesn't realize. Hopefully, they have coached her on some level before they get to trial to say, look, you need to just come out and be like, boom, 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 here's the answer. Because this whole shady, slippery stuff you're doing isn't going to fly.
There might have been a pair of headphones in there. I don't know. I can look in there and take a look, tell you what's in there.
You take anything out of it?
Probably. I mean, I took the bag out. You know what I mean? I took the headphones out because I started using. I'm like, I wonder if these are good headphones. And I started using them.
Did you take anything else out of it?
She 100% took other stuff out of there, and 100% probably destroyed evidence, right? Again, the hemming and the hawing, and she remembers the headphones because I took them out and started using them. Doesn't remember anything else though.
I wasn't paying attention, to tell you the truth. Was I supposed to be looking for something?
No, I'm wondering, because we had reports there was some other things in there.
Yeah.
And
like what?
Like there was a gun associated with the bag.
I wasn't paying attention. I wanted to throw the computer across the room. And then she has the gall to say, was I supposed to be? That kind of smart alecky stuff, I'm like, seriously? But also notice how she's, in my opinion, she's fishing for answers. She wants to know what they're going to say. She wants to see what they know. Yeah, because even when he's like, well, there was some other stuff in the report associated with it. Like what? It's, honey, you know what's in there? A gun? Oh, I mean, really?
The money?
Oh, okay. That's what you're asking for? You're asking for the guns, but the guns were in separate bags. Not in the same bag not in the bag of money. The bag of money was it's like a black duffel bag type thing with a zipper.
Okay.
And then there's the guns that he left. They have their own case, and they have, it's like a case, like a gun case, and then the gun goes in one thing, and then it has the clips, and
again, can't roll my eyes hard enough. Once she got a little bit of intel and he came out with the guns or whatever, they were in a separate thing. The money was in its own little thing. It's like, she's not that dumb. Okay, she can't be. Right? She knows exactly what she's doing, and she is picking and plotting and getting answers. She just seems to be completely on this fishing expedition for information along the way. Like she's not wanting to offer anything else. And again, I just think she's lied so much along the way, probably destroyed evidence, done so, whatever, that it's just at a certain point, like, I mean, she can't keep up with it.
So just so I understand, the gun case was with the bag of money.
Next.
But not inside the bag.
I don't think so. No.
And just so I'm clear, the bag of money was in a Ziploc bag inside of another bag.
Yes.
And the gun was not inside the bag with the money, nor was it inside the bag that the money was in. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it has its own.
Okay.
Its own separate bag with a zipper that goes around like that. So when you open it like a book.
Okay, so in the duffel bag that the money was in, what else was in the duffel bag?
I mean, my God, the word salad is ridiculous. I mean, and thank God her attorney sits there and spells it out. But it's literally so, she's trying to get so specific to avoid something. And it's so frustrating to listen to because, again, that's where I'm like, she knows exactly what she's doing. And I think the detectives know this, right? But they're hitting these walls with her and they're like, maybe we should try over here for a minute.
Let me ask you this. Was there a phone in the duffel bag?
Yeah, I think that's where they found a phone, because they took it. They took a phone.
Who? The police?
The Gilbert police took a phone that was in there.
Mm-hmm. this would be very convenient, of course, for the police to have taken it, especially if it's a phone that she was using. So I love how she does, again, the trademark pause. And then, like, yeah, you know what? She's running with the idea that they've given her, right? Yeah, maybe that's where they got the phone from. But of course, she'll change this here in a little bit.
It's possible that they found it in there, but I don't know where they found it, to tell you the truth. But they said that they did take that one.
And of course, we always have to leave ourselves an out so that there can never really be any firm kind of answers.
And so when Alex gave you that bag, or told you if anything ever happens to me, did you ask him, like, why would anything ever happen to you? Was that an odd statement that he had made?
I did. I said, don't say things like that, Alex. I said, why would you say something like that? And then he said, just in case. Just in case. That's why the reason why I in my back of my mind, I was thinking, did he do something to himself? Why was he saying that 2 days before he passed?
Now, again, they're newlyweds. He dotes all over her. We get it. Why would he be saying that in the context of all that's going on? Like, that's red flags number one. Why after that took place? Well, maybe he did this to himself. If everything was normal, right? These are not normal things for someone to say. These are not normal thoughts for someone to have in relation to said events taking place.
And then, so when you had that, let's go back to the conversation that you had with Alex when Tammy's body is being exhumed. Do you remember that conversation where you said you had confronted him and said, Alex, are you going to have anything to do with this? Why would you think that he may have something to do with it?
I mean, amen, brother, on that one. Again, just like I said a second ago, all of these things that are going on, that is such a bizarre thought to have. Why would you ask someone that? And what is more, gives me more pause than that, I mean, obviously that does, but when you look at like this interview, the interview with Melanie, both Melanies, obviously the ones with Lori, but I'm talking about people who are trying to claim they weren't, knee deep in this. The things that they talk about so normally, and just like they're talking about the weather, it is so out there. It concerns me that they still are just like, oh, well, da-da-da-da-da. And, the cops, obviously, I mean, they see this clearly, right? I mean, anybody does. It's very concerning, and it just blows my mind that they don't see this, the people who were in and around this circle, if they didn't have something to do with it.
Lori and Chad had called that day, and they were the ones that told us that they were exhuming her body, and
so I just wanted to kind of pause here for a second to, again, just look at how much she pauses, how much she has to think about the answers. It is so annoying.
And I was like, why are they so nonchalantly about it? Like,
I mean, exactly. They've all acted like this. All of them, including Zulema, they're all very nonchalant about things. But also, I go back to the whole nonchalant thing, and I'm like, even more reason to have pause over certain things. Because if she's claiming, again, I mean, we know the truth or whatever, I barely know them, and da-da-da. Well, then even more reason to, give pause to someone's behavior that comes off this way.
Are they hiding something? Did they do something? Did they not do something?
I mean, this shouldn't be a hard leap to make, right? Because according to her, they're hiding where they're at, hiding phone numbers. Zulema's some kind of gatekeeper. The kids are being hidden. Everything's hiding, right? And bodies are turning up around them. So, this is not a hard, jump to make.
I knew that if I asked Lori and Chad about anything, they probably wouldn't say anything. But I thought that if they had been doing something, if he had done anything, Alex would probably tell me.
And right there, you have your answer as to why at some point he was going to have to go.
And the reason I ask is because, let's say, if my wife gets a call and they say one of her friends is being exhumed, that wouldn't be a question I would ask my wife is, Did you have anything to do with this?
Again, amen, brother. I mean, this is like the statement of the year in this interview and to this crowd. You know, and there's so many things that like that could be said also for Melanie's interview, right? Some of the stuff that she said is like, it's just, this is not normal, right? These things that Zulema's saying, this is not normal. This is not a normal thought to have about most anybody, but especially somebody you just married.
So remember that they were saying that Tammy had become a zombie.
My God, it was only a matter of time before we had to get to the damn zombie talk.
Tammy was supposed to die on her trip to Utah. She was supposed to have he had seen it in a vision that she was going to die in a car accident in the way there, or something was going to happen that she was going to pass away.
So if that is the case, why in God's name did anybody say, don't go to Utah? Don't get on the road? This is what blows my mind. And again, I keep coming back to this, where I'm just like, they don't realize, like she doesn't realize how absurd this sounds. Oh, they had a vision that she was going to die then. You know, well then why wouldn't you yourself call them? You know, that's the part that I'm like, they don't see how cray-cray they sound.
And then when she didn't pass away, then what they were saying was that she actually did pass away, but what happened was that she was taken over by an evil spirit, and then they were, that she had become a zombie, okay?
Again, with the zombie talk. I really want to know, like, I hope that there's some way, I mean, we would never really know, right? But to find out if Lori and Chad honestly believe the zombie thing, or if that was just the thing that they would use to justify being like, this person has to go.
In the back of my mind, here I am thinking, okay, they said the same thing about Charles, right? And then Charles ended up being shot, right? And I'm thinking, okay, you guys are not trying to say that you guys are going to do something physically to people who are.
Now she's trying to sell this to the detectives, like, you know, she pieced this together later or whatever. Remember, this is not a huge timeline for her, right? This is like, you know, some of these revelations, like, I've really been thinking about this, whatever. I mean, granted, this is after the fact, but it's not this huge amount of time, right? So I just feel like with everything going on around this and all of this, how quickly it was just happening, that, you know, that none of this ever popped in her mind during the moment.
What was Alex's response to your question to him?
So he sat back and and pressed his back towards like back of the bed, the headboard, and he goes, no. And that's it. There's no answer after that.
Now again, she's describing his response to her question about, you know, did they have anything to do with it, whatever. So many words to describe him leaning against the damn headboard, right? I'm just like, oh my God, spit it out, right? Like, why do you have to like get so jumbled up on certain details, but then, you know, other ones just completely go blank on? Now, one thing I think is interesting is how, in the context of what she's talking about, where she's like, you know, I asked him about this Tammy thing and da-da-da-da, and his response was, you know, very quiet. He says no. Later on in the interview, and we'll get to this, when she's talking about Alex giving her a massage, and like her kind of like looking back in hindsight or whatever, saying, I think maybe he was going to take my life, because that evening he was very quiet, very solemn. That's not like him. So I think it's interesting where in this, she's describing that same type of behavior surrounding that. It almost makes me wonder if when he was going in that mode, if that was his behavior, and it makes me wonder if maybe there is some validity to it. He was going to try and take her out that evening.
Nothing else. I was waiting for him to say something else, and I'm like, so, I was like, okay. I'm like, are you going to say anything else? And he's like, no.
Now, again, like I just said, maybe this is a pattern when he gets like that. Maybe this does show there was some validity. Maybe he was going to do something to her in Vegas. I don't know. But also, again, just like these detectives have been saying, if you're asking this person you just married or whatever, you know, you should be in this zone with somebody who you just got with of like that. Like, everything's perfect and happy to them. And you're having this conversation about that. The fact that she's even having it to that level, and that's his response where he goes quiet, no. You know, doesn't say anything else about it. I mean, this is like called pack your bags and get the hey diddle diddle out of there.
So then then I stand up and I start walking away because I'm like, I don't know what to think at this point. And that's when he said, I think I am being their fall guy. And I'm like, the fall guy for what? What is it? Tell me. What is it that they're trying to pin on you? What did they do? And he just wouldn't say anything else.
Okay, so this part right here about I might be the fall guy and da-da-da. I mean, for all we know, that was the plan, and he will continue to be, right? Because he's no longer here, so they can blame a lot of stuff on him. Obviously, once evidence starts coming out, physical evidence, stuff that we don't know about yet, we'll be able to get a clearer picture of that. But I do think it's interesting, again, if she's telling the truth, which I do feel like this part, I feel like some pieces of what she says are true, right? They ring true. Like, there's some kind of thing about it that's like, okay, she doesn't seem to be skirting around. Now, this also works both ways because, again, the more she tells about this conversation, the more it's just like, I mean, why weren't you on the phone with the police? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would that be a response? That is such a bizarre response. A fall guy for what?
Question. So I turn around and I'm going to walk away again, because I'm just so frustrated that he's not saying anything. And that's when he tells me, either I am a man of God or I am not.
So can you imagine getting at this point in the Daybell game and making a statement like that, again, if it's true, I'm either a man of God or I'm not. And I'm just like, the thought that he literally believed this stuff, because according to Melanie Gibb, the zombie thing, 100%. According to these people, he seemed to 100% buy into this. I mean, maybe he did, but to get to that point and to be like, the things that he has done, right? I mean, to his niece and nephew, all these people, allegedly, but, and then to be like, maybe this was all a lie. Can you imagine? I mean, all this carnage that you've caused over absolute dribble. Now, this doesn't make her happy because he's not talking to her about it. Not the fact of, oh gosh, he might have taken out an entire family, da-da. No, it's the fact that he's not like interacting and, telling her what she's wanting to hear or whatever, like giving her the answers.
That, I guilt it. I thought for sure that I had given him a heart attack because I was, kind of pouncing on him, Now putting it all back, and now I understand that, they were probably telling him through blessings to do certain things, and he in his mind was either I'm following what God is telling me or I am not.
So again, if all of this is true, which some of this stuff, because it looks so bad, I'm like, it has to be, right? But who knows? But again, this sounds more like what something went along. Again, his autopsy report came back as natural. Many people think something else was up. It just seems so odd the way it all went, right? It seems like such a coincidence because I do think at some point he was going to have to go. And Chad giving him the blessing. I just feel like Chad was reading him like some kind of last rites or being like, look, it's your time. You have to do this. This is for the greater mission. Because I do think that he was like a little lapdog, right? He was just being passed around to these people to do all their bidding. And I think that he was going to always have to go. And so this part rings very true to me.
So after he had said that, I think I'm going to be the fall guy.
I think I'm going to be their
fall guy. Did you think that Chad and Lori had done something to Tammy? Was that your impression based on that statement?
I didn't know what to think at the time.
I didn't know what to think at the time. She just finished saying she had to ask about that, right? This is where all of this information just kind of doesn't match up with one another, even in this clarifying interview.
It was so confusing for me at the time because I saw, at the time I still saw Lori and Chad as a very spiritual, kind, loving, charming, law-abiding, God-fearing people.
I mean, my God, there's so many descriptive words there. You know, and again, it's so interesting. I mean, she uses law-abiding, spiritual, all this stuff. I mean, I really think a lot of these people held them up in this, like, God-like standard, you know, which is kind of blasphemous to begin with, but whatever. But again, when she says this stuff now, and you go back to that original recording and reading some of the police report from the day that Alex passed, the two aren't adding up. Because to me, it's like, if you think this about somebody and you don't have these thoughts going through your head, your initial reaction isn't all of this, I need to lawyer up, what are you doing there, so on and so forth.
I mean, these things didn't even come together for me until like months and months and months of me thinking and processing and putting things together. You know what I mean?
And I'm sure Immunity Deal helped that out too.
So on these conference calls with you and Chad and Lori, and then there was Melanie and Ian, you guys talk about a code word to make sure it's safe to talk. Do you remember talking about that with them?
Now, y'all, this part right here, just from the cringe factor alone, go ahead and put your damn sofa seatbelt on, okay? Because even just listening to that, I was like, oh, God, if she is not just squirming, which I don't think she is, over this part, because, again, what we're going to look into is the code words and all this stuff to talk. Why in heaven's name would you need any of that BS?
So then I called him and I said, hey, where are you at? And he's like, oh, I'm in the walkway, the green field behind the house with Gibb and Melly.
So interesting that he's out back with the Melanies. Let's continue.
So he's like, just come out back here and meet us back here. So when I got to where they were at, that's what they were talking about. They were making a code word.
So they're standing out back and they're making up these code words. Again, notice how she's not part of this. She's walking into others doing this. It's always seems to be the case with her, right? Where she's like kind of being drugged into something per her words. Like, oh, they were already doing this. And so then I went back there. But as you might be wondering, as I was too listening to this, what are the code words? Well, buckle your seatbelts up because the secondhand embarrassment's gonna get ya.
Do you remember what the words were?
So it was pretty bird, and the other one was not happy Bob.
I swear if you look at her attorney and there, I think he's like trying not to laugh, right? Because when she said pretty bird and not happy Bob, first of all, pretty bird, I was like, why not you just say the yellow bird has landed? Like, it's almost the most cliche word you could pick up. And then, I mean, it's just like, what are y'all, how old are y'all? How did we even arrive here? These are grown adults, right? I can't keep coming back to that, and I cannot roll my eyes hard enough at it. But now also, there's the issue of Miss Zulema being the gatekeeper of the phone calls. And side note, whenever I sit here and like think of her in this context, I don't know why this comes to my mind, but I'm gonna put a little picture of it up here. But I mean, oh my God, this is what I think of whenever I think of like her little, you know, I can do earthquakes and all this kind of stuff. And it's damn near ruined the movie for me.
Because every time they would call you, and then you would do the calling.
So again, you start looking at all of this in a larger picture, right? So first of all, I don't know them. Barely even know him. He hardly talks to his siblings, you know, but Gibbs is saying, oh yeah, Zulema had all these special gifts. Now Zulema in the beginning of this says that, right? And then the evidence is showing what they were calling, and you were like, you know, the gatekeeper of the phone call. So, you know, what's up with that?
A couple of times it was Chad's phone, and then I think a couple of times it was the Lori's new phone number, or the last phone number known.
So again, all of this evidence sitting here pointing towards this, she can try and skirt around it as much as she wants to, but to me, in my personal opinion from the sofa, is that, yeah, she was just more involved.
And that's one of the things that she would say would be, for your protection, we're not telling you where we're at. For your protection.
Red flag number 10,500,000.29 decimal something something. I mean, come on. Why in God's name would there be a need to say for your protection? Why in God's name wouldn't that be a red flag? Why wouldn't you be reaching out to people? Why continue to go forward on any level with these people? All of the stuff that was going on at this time. I mean, come on.
So how come you were the designated, or how come you were always the one who would make the calls? How come it wouldn't be Ian or Melanie or anybody else within the group that would call Chad and Lori?
I also think it's very interesting that he keeps bringing up Ian's name as well, just saying. But let's listen to what her response was on this one. That's right, you heard it, folks, a whole bunch of nothing. This is the part that gets me, because I'm just like, how do they not just absolutely shake their heads and walk out of the room? I mean, she literally gets painted in a corner, and it's just, you can hear the wheels turning, you know, trying to come up with something.
I don't know. I guess it was just kind of like a kind of take over kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe.
Interesting how she says the words kind of maybe a takeover thing, maybe takeover being the key words there, right? So again, I'm just like, wait a minute, she's like, you know, the number one person with gifts, she's the gatekeeper for the phone calls, she's even saying maybe like a takeover kind of a thing. I just feel like she was some form of a right-hand woman, or whatever you want to call it. But let's go back very quick on that note. Let's go back to Miss Gibbs and her interview and see what she had to say about their relationship.
So then it kind of just branched off to her and Lori would do a lot of it on their own in the temple. And I'd come and see them in the temple later. I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, we just were talking about how to, you know, do this and da-da-da-da.
Zulema, Lori?
What?
Who? Lori and who?
Zulema. So they'd be in the temple doing it sometimes. And they would just do it like they'd sit beside each other and just hold hands or something like that. Like nobody could really tell what they're doing.
So they're in the temple doing God knows what, fishing for imaginary little butterflies and stuff. Now, again, I just personally think that Gibbs was totally jealous. It sounds like a Mean Girl scenario, right? Where Gibbs is like, well, yeah, they were sitting at the popular lunch table. I mean, technically, we don't know if she caused that earthquake, right? We don't know what they were doing. But at the end of the day, it just also goes to show this relationship. And again, just this whole dynamic of like, look, hello, you know, you 100% knew this woman, right?
Did everybody know their number in the group?
At that time, no, they didn't, because I remember.
I mean, she is tripping and falling all over that damn question, right? But again, at the end of the day, she's sitting here saying, no, not everyone knew these numbers, whatever. It's almost like Zulema was like a portal. Now, Zulema will go on to talk about how Melanie Pulowski was really upset at one point because she couldn't get a hold of Lori, so on and so forth. Then Zulema will give some insight on what it's like to be indoctrined. Am I saying that right? Indoctrinated, whatever that word is. By Lori and Chad, which I think is very interesting.
Part of the manipulation and part of that indoctrination and getting you to be part of this, you know, needing them and being, you know, close to them and stuff like that, was their constant offering you a blessing of comfort, or offering you a blessing of something that was going to happen, so promising you something. So it was almost as if when you get that on a constant basis all the time, and then all of a sudden you don't, it's almost as if you're like, whoa, what happened there? You know what I mean? All of a sudden you feel like, oh my goodness, I have no guidance now.
My God, hug your children extra. I mean, I just feel like this is one of the outcomes that can happen if you don't, right? There's so much to break down in this one statement that she's saying. So without Lori and Chad blowing smoke up there, well, you know what? It's almost like they had no compass in life, no moral direction, no direction, like any of that stuff. Like they became almost like addicted to that attention, right? I mean, I get it, okay? So that's the part that baffles me, because then at the end of the day, it's like statements like this don't help the case of, oh, well, we would do anything for them. Because this starts to kind of round the picture out for me as to seeing, oh yeah, this was like, they were like a drug to these people, right? They were probably going to be willing to hide anything, do anything, all of that bad stuff.
Now that we're talking about this, one of the things that they started saying to me from the beginning was that putting me in a position of being so special, and you know, like Lori and Chad used to say to me often, you know, your mission is the most important one.
I bet she was intoxicated with this attention, right? And that seems to be very prevalent in all these like people out lying in this case and whatnot, as well as obviously Chad and Lori, is this intense need for attention. I mean, we see it in the interviews they give. We see it in these little interrogation or whatever you want to call this, another interview. It's so bizarre to me, and I just think that they were all so intoxicated with this level of attention and seeking this attention. Like they literally thought they were the chosen ones. Also with Zulema, we've seen all this other evidence rounding out. So this is another one of the statements that I believe her, right? I mean, she was like the one doing the phone calls. Even Melanie Gibb said, oh, she seemed to be, you know, the one with the special talents, and I didn't have no special talents. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that this is another, like, one of the more truer statements that she's making.
We have to take care of you more than we have to take care of anyone else, because your mission is most important and more important than anybody else's.
I'm sure Chad and Lori were selling this line of BS to multiple people, right? So I have a feeling that Zulema was lapping it up like a thirsty dog at the bowl of midsummer, okay? I just get that vibe from her. I think that Melanie Gibb probably was doing the same type thing. So I think several people in this situation were doing that, so whatever. But again, I go back to this. Of her having this like special mission, all this kind of stuff. Oh, we have to look out for you specifically, and da-da-da. So then you revert back to the Alex Cox thing of, well, yeah, I think maybe like they were kind of talking about that. You piece together the story bit by bit, and it's like, okay, she had a special mission. Part of that was marrying Alex. She marries Alex. Something happens to Alex mysteriously within weeks. Possibly could have happened to her first, and she might have, you know, gotten out of that per se, because maybe he changed his mind. We don't know. You know, he's not here to tell us anymore. But again, this is where I come back to, I do not buy that she was not privy to information such as where they were exactly, as well as possible other criminal activity going on.
So along those lines, with you being the most important mission, and I know we've talked about this a little bit as far as your marriage with Alex, was Chad or Lori directing you to marry Alex?
They were suggesting it, and they were saying that we should be together.
So again, just like I was saying, here you go, coming from her own mouth. I believe this statement, this seems on brand for all of them, right? But where she's trying to back away from it some throughout the whole thing and distance herself, that kind of a situation, I just think she was more probably gung-ho about it. I mean, for God's sake, she ended up marrying the guy, right?
Chad did give me a blessing one time, saying that I would get married again, and I remember telling him, I don't know about that. I'm like, I already told myself that I was never going to be married again, so I don't know about that.
So Chad and Lori are talking about, you know, suggesting the they get married thing or whatever. Chad gives her a blessing that she's going to get married. How gullible are these people? Or how gullible do they think we are, right? Now, for her being like, I don't know about that, and da-da-da. I mean, come on, how many times has she been married, right? Not to shame that or anything, but it's just in this particular scenario with so many, like, slippery things taking place. But again, I go back to this at this point with that, where I'm like, okay, so you see how there's like this manipulation on Chad and Lori's part of, oh, well, we give these blessings and say this because they know that these people listen to them, right? So whenever they want someone to do something, it's almost like, Chad the Almighty will speak it into fruition or whatever. So that's why I go back to the day that Alex passed. And I'm like, okay, so he's giving him a blessing while he's basically on the phone dying, right? So that's where I'm just like, this doesn't add all up. It just seems like with the evidence that we know of right now that somehow, some way, it's, I don't know. I just go back and forth with that. It's so much of a coincidence that he died of natural causes to me, right? And then I hear stuff like this where all the time it's like these blessings coincide with what they want to happen, the narrative that they want to take place. So it's hard not to put those two things together for me.
So did Chad or Lori ever tell you, as part of your mission, that you need to marry Alex?
Now for this one, I was like, let me put on my damn glasses so I can hear better. Go on, Zulema. Speak up, because this is going to be good.
The way that they presented it was that in order for people to finish their missions, they always had to have somebody that was going to be equal in their, in their spirituality, equal to them.
Now I see where she's headed with this, right? And for me, I'm just like, it would be painfully depressing to know that somebody was telling me that I was spiritually on par and equivalent to Alex Cox, right? I'm like, my God. But it also makes me look at all these other situations. Melanie and Ian, Melanie and David, these two, you know what I'm saying? Obviously Lori and Chad. So it just makes me question a whole bunch of these other situations with these other people involved in this case.
So then they started saying, Alex will be part of that for you. He will be the person who will be able to help you with your mission, and he will be the supporter that you will need.
I'm like, wow, he really was like their little lapdog that they just passed around. Then it makes you wonder, like, okay, so she was taking over and Alex was going to be her assistant. I mean, how many more people were they going to take out?
So did you believe that in order for your mission to be complete, that you needed to marry Alex? Did you believe that?
I wasn't sure, to tell you the truth, if I really had a mission. I kind of took their word for what they were saying.
First red flag, she says, to tell you the truth, okay? Secondly, she does her pausing to kind of configure her answer. Now, I'm just going to revert back to the old saying, actions speak louder than words. Was she married to the man? Out of the blue. Yes. Bing, bing, bing. Case damn closed. But then it's also interesting how she's like, I wasn't really sure if I had a mission. I just took them at their word. And I'm like, well, if they're telling you that you do, and you took them at their word, then you just didn't question it, right? I'm not sure really what she means with that, right? That part's kind of confusing because I feel like her answer makes it look even worse. Like, no, I just blindly accepted whatever they said. Well, so then you did think they had a mission. You had a mission. You know what I'm saying? That part seems just kind of weird to me.
They, often they would say, okay, Zulema, we want you to do this. And I would go, okay. And I would just say a prayer or whatever. And then they would say, oh, Zulema, this is what you did. So it was never like I would be able, you know what I mean? Like, am I really doing any of this stuff? Or are they just like saying that because they were confirming it for me or, stuff like that?
Again, her responses are such bad word salad. So this is what I'm taking into it. They would do a prayer, a blessing, whatever they would do, this grabbing of butterflies in the temple, probably, her and Lori. And then Lori would be like, see the mass devastation over and wherever? You caused that. I hope you're proud of yourself. And regardless if it's mass devastation or whatever, or just simply, a rainbow or whatever, okay? The fact that I'm like, that alone, I personally think she believed it, right? I don't think that she questioned it, because that kind of stuff, I'm like, really? Like, why would you even be associating with that? And then say you were going down that path at one point and it was like, I believe that I can, adjust the weather or whatever. But then, well, now their kids are missing, and now what's happening with Tammy? That's where it's like, at what point were you going to jump off this train? Because she was riding it seems to me, to the very end.
And I kept, praying about Alex. And he was like, he was there. You know what I mean? From the beginning, he was like, I want a relationship. I'm not messing around. He was like, I want to get married, and I mean, he was insistent about it, and I was like, no, wait, let's wait. No, I don't have an answer. I'm not sure about that, and I had my doubts. Let me put it that way.
I'm sorry, of course he wanted to get married. He believed all the stuff that Lori and them were telling them. So they were gassing him up to marry Zulema, right? So of course he wanted to get married. Of course he was 100% into it, right? And her being like, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts and stuff. I mean, how long is that going to last, really? You see the track record going on with her in relationships, right? And so you have this guy coming up, I want to get married, all this stuff. It's just, I'm not buying her responses here.
I had my doubts, and then I kept praying, and then once Alex and I got to know each other a little bit better, and we started spending time together and talking to each other, I really started liking him. And the things I liked the most about him was that he was the kind of person that I could go deep conversations and deep discussions about the scriptures, and he knew the scriptures very well.
Now again, she sits here and says, I prayed on it, and then we started talking, we had these deep conversations and so on and so forth, and she couldn't have these conversations with anybody else about scriptures, all this type of stuff. Well, then you hear the belief systems they were going into, and that's where I'm just like, I mean, were you not aware of these kind of like really alternative belief systems, right? I mean, the zombie thing, all this type of stuff. I mean, it's so weird to me because, again, for someone that has a history, it seems of just like hooking up with dudes, letting them move in, do all this kind of stuff, whatever. And then here comes Alex, another one. What point do you start saying, maybe I need to date somebody for a really long time before I can say to get to know them? So it seems like, again, there was some sort of a compression, a pressure, a rush to do things. And almost like, okay, well, I can have all these conversations. Yep, let's go ahead and just, elope in Las Vegas.
From Rexburg, for when he was coming down for Thanksgiving, a couple of days, I think it was the day before he arrived, I was praying and I was asking, and I just got this feeling that, like, okay, I think that it's time for me to marry him.
There was absolutely no outside influence going on. I mean, nothing bizarre was going on in this group around the Thanksgiving time.
Do you think Alex was pressuring you because Chad and Lori wanted him to get married to you?
Mm-hmm.
So then my thing is, well, why go through with it? If he's pressuring you to get married, you already know this, you've said it, this is probably coming from Lori and Chad. If you're not into this or whatever, why go down that road? Why do this when all of this bizarre stuff is going on with this crowd? Why marry into it?
It's possible.
And this might be a tough question. Do you think Alex truly loved you, or was just doing it because Chad and Lori told him to?
I have asked that myself many times, and I don't know if someone could actually fake it that well.
This is a man that took the lives of multiple people, including his niece and nephew, right? I'm sure he can fake it till he makes it in many different scenarios. One thing that I think is going on here is like the con artist getting conned, right? And I think Zulema probably has an issue that she got conned in some way, right? Like some of the stuff that we'll get into with what she says she thinks happened and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like the ego, right? Because all these people have these huge egos. So like to sit here and say, well, do you think he really ever actually liked you? Well, if he was really faking it if he did. Well, I mean, look at what he did to all these other people. They thought that he loved them.
At least I couldn't fake it. Maybe he could. And if he could fake it, then he was a really good faker, okay? Because he was like, he doted over me.
Now again, we've already seen that all it takes is telling her she has pretty hair and she's going to do whatever. You know what I'm saying? Lori and Chad were already grooming and manipulating her. So for Alex to come along and love bomb her, or whatever you want to call it, You know, now she does go on to cite one of the examples of this doting, and she's like, one day I woke up and I wanted chips and salsa, and he's like, where are the keys? And I'm just like, oh wow, honey, you've really got you one there. But then I'm also like, does she consider, maybe looking back, I'll be curious, it's almost like a scenario like that. I'm like, yeah, he probably would do stuff like that so he could get away and make secret phone calls. God only knows the secret life he had going on behind her back.
And he came back. He goes, here you go. And he would say it all the time, as you wish.
Whenever she says that part, I can't get the image out of my mind of like Alex saying that to Lori, and that inappropriate, I'm acting more like more than what a brother should act like. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, as you wish, Lori. Now, Hermosillo will walk out, and the other detective will round things back around like his questions, and they'll go back to the day of the hospital and the dealings with her son-in-law and the whole lawyer thing.
Your son-in-law said that he has an attorney now, so if you want to talk to us, talk to the attorney. What did he need an attorney for at that time?
You can hear a damn pin drop in there. Now, regardless, this is a major whammy for her, right? And she's going to try and answer, but she jumbles this up so much. And again, this is just, to me, a pattern with her.
Either he has an attorney or there's an attorney for Alex, so talk to the attorney now. Was he talking about Alex having an attorney at that time, or was he talking about himself having an attorney?
Now, this seems like a pretty straightforward answer, right? He's even given her a freebie on it. Like, here are two options here, because she's walking all over the place to get from A to Z, but she's going through all these other areas. And it's like, here's these two options. Like, well, what are you talking about?
Does that make sense?
Yes. So he was talking about, he was saying that his attorney, to talk to his attorney because he was going to be representing me from then on.
Talk to Alex's attorney?
No,
to
my son-in-law's attorney.
Clearly, it didn't make sense, right? Because she's, again, minimizing, distancing. She's doing this projecting onto him. So if you listen to what she's saying even, I mean, it's so confusing and convoluted. And I think she knows what she's doing with these answers. Because other ones, you can kind of get like this probably really took place. But here she's like, he's saying to talk to his attorney because he's going to be representing me. And it's like, Alex's attorney, like, who are we talking about here? Again, you can go back, remember in the thing we listened to at the beginning, where it's just like, I'm not getting that this was all coming from the son-in-law, right? I mean, I feel like she was driving that ship pretty good herself.
Okay, why would he need an attorney? I guess is what I'm asking.
Why did he have an attorney?
Yeah, why would he need one at that time?
So what happened was that
So interesting in this one that she tries to repeat the question to buy more time. Why does he need this? And again, she's still going off on left field here. Like, right, she's circling around the whole thing. Like, she's not coming out like, oh, it was me that needed the attorney, right? So she's trying to be completely shady with that. Now, luckily, what we will see is her lawyer's just like, oh my God, please, stop.
Let me cut you off from telling the story. I don't think he cares why your son-in-law knew the attorney. Did your son-in-law need an attorney under this investigation?
Under this, not under this investigation.
Okay, so the police attorney was for her.
Oh, he contacted an attorney that he knew for her.
Yeah, no, you know what, Sherlock? I mean, my God, all of this hemming and hawing that she has done to avoid answering the question. These are the ones that I'm like, no, she's not that stupid. I do think she's incredibly gullible, right? But I think she also knows what she's doing, and she is such a master, not a master, I shouldn't say, because she's transparent. She relies so much on deflection and all this kind of stuff that she just keeps walking in circles, and I'm like, you should know by now, this deep in the interview, they're not going to let up on this, so quit trying to walk around it. You know, it's a simple question that she just absolutely does not want to answer, because again, it's one of the pivotal points of that day where when you listen to it and she's like, I'm getting an attorney and why are you in there? I mean, again, why would an innocent person even think to ask these questions or go that route?
Okay, yeah, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Why did you feel you needed an attorney at that time?
I didn't. He felt that I did.
He felt, okay, all right, that's what I was...
Again, It's the son-in-law who thought that. I didn't think that. You can go back and listen to that thing. No, she did not want those cops in there. Point blank, end of damn story.
So I went and found that's what the kids said.
Was there a reason why he thought you needed an attorney? Did you know? Or was it distant? Yeah, he knew. Did you know?
He had had a really bad experience with the police just prior to that. That's the reason why he knew that. A really bad experience. He just
Didn't trust police.
So yeah, again, we see she's not taking accountability. It's the son-in-law's fault. He had a bad experience with the cops. She was just going to be willing to let them do whatever, but it was, somebody else's fault once again. I mean, can you imagine her in just normal, everyday circumstances? This absolute inability to take any kind of accountability for anything whatsoever. I'm just like, oh, it would drive me absolutely crazy.
Would you need to use code words, and why did Chad and Lori think that code words were necessary?
So the way that they had expressed it was because, you were a high-level 6 dark person. And so was
Sure you would have been too. I mean, that's
so was your partner, right?
I'd be his boss.
And you guys were seeking their destruction. And you guys were working with Kay seeking their destruction, and they needed to have protection because, they were saying that the kids were safe and they had them in a safe place.
Excellent question. Frightening response. So here again, and I think that this does ring true, where she's describing, how the police were looked at and all this kind of stuff. And it is scary to be like, what? And you see even her lawyer and the detective kind of laughing about this because it's so absurd sounding to us, right? Like anyone outside of this can listen to this and be like, what? This is absolutely insane. But again, I just kind of go back where she's at this point trying to speak about it like in a remove type way, right? But during this time where it's like, okay, so you were following all this stuff, you took their word, all the stuff she's already said, and so now we're edging up on, oh, well, she's hiding the kids and doing code words and doing this because y'all are these high level dark zombie people and all this stuff. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
I absolutely love his response there because it's literally like what we're thinking, like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So then he's going to ask her to type in a number to see what comes up on her phone, right? And so how like your phone, if you type it in and it's save contact or something, it'll pop up, or if you've used it before, whatever. So he's going to do this. Now this one's going to kind of throw her for a little bit of a loop.
My granddaughter got a hold of that phone that I had during
Everything.
And I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't know this, that if your phone and your old phone are connected to the same Wi-Fi, that if you do something on the old phone, it will show up on your new phone.
Gotcha.
So she deleted
Deleted all that?
hundreds and hundreds of phone numbers
Oh,
on
no.
my phone.
I mean, honestly. Now look, here's the thing. I'm not no cell phone expert, right? I don't know how any of that works. It could be true, but I don't buy that for a second. Also, she's already sat here and said, she's surrounded by people who don't trust the cops, her son-in-law, this kind of thing. So I'm like, well, who's to say you just didn't sit here and do this yourself? How was your granddaughter able to delete all this stuff? Now, mind you, I've seen kids do some pretty crazy stuff on phones. I'll give her that, right? But I just don't buy it. It's all very convenient. And this goes on with multiple of these people. Because I think if we honestly were able to get a hold of all of these people's phones and look at the stuff in there, our mouths would be on the floor. And they would probably all be locked away.
7288, is that the one that you were just asking me for?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's
whose is it?
Chad.
That's Chad. And Alex texted you that.
Yes.
But amazingly, she does have the number that Alex texted her. Somehow, and all of this information getting deleted, that was saved.
So on Zulema, on a couple of those recordings, you referred to him, Chad, as Raphael. Is that what you called him normally, or did you normally call him Chad?
I would call him Chad.
Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is another good example of how slippery she'll get with stuff, because again, one thing that I think we've seen in this interview is they'll give a bit of information. She'll generally like say one answer that might not be completely true until they like come back with more information to kind of say, look, that's not really what's going on, and then she'll like serve her answer again after she's like, oh, so they know this about it, right?
So when did you call him? Sometimes you just call him Raphael, because on one of those you say, let me call Raphael's calling through. Is that just sometimes you would call him that, or
Yeah,
during
sometimes.
certain times? Or?
I think that Alex used to call him Raphael a lot. So if I was saying something like that, it's probably because Alex was with me, because he would call him that.
So again, the same pattern that we've seen. Let's blame the dead guy, number one, right? Oh, Alex used to do that. Again, so much of the stuff, it shocks me how much of this interview she deflects and gets away from. But now this next part we're about to get into sends chills down my spine.
I don't know if you guys knew, but Alex was a massage therapist.
Ugh, can you imagine? Ugh, I'm about to go deep and hard in your chakra. Ugh, I mean, and I imagine a cigarette hanging from his mouth while he gave massages. I'm just like, this guy is like all over the place, right? But what's interesting about what she's getting ready to say, we've kind of talked about a little bit, thus far, is the chain of events that take place with this whole massage thing. So she describes this event of them, they're in Vegas, the whole little honeymoon thing or the eloping thing or whatever. And she's basically talking about some kind of, oh, my back hurts, whatever. And he's like, baby, I'll give you a massage. And so, okay, great. Oh, we have to go to Walmart. And isn't it always at Walmart they get this stuff from? And they go and get like a big, she says it's like a plastic tarp that like you use for painting or whatever. And he basically wants to put this down on the bed. So the plastic thing is a little bit odd, because at first I was like, well, maybe he doesn't want, there to be massage oil get on the bed, and of course that's how he's going to sell it to her, right? But it's also some of his behaviors that go along with it. And then again, getting that level of plastic, like a plastic tarp to put over the entire bed, I'm just like, unless he was like, we're getting ready to throw down tonight, it is definitely weird.
Well, that's really weird that he had you lay on plastic.
Again, I'm sorry for any mental imagery that this brings up, but it definitely is weird, right? Now, how much she also describes about, Alex was like, I was coming out of the massage and he was talking in the bathroom, and he said he was talking by himself and he was very quiet, he wasn't himself, so on and so forth.
I keep thinking that who was on the phone was Chad and Lori, and that was supposed to be my last day, and he was supposed to.
And it very well could have been.
Now, this part right here, I go back and forth because I can't decide if Lori and Chad were pitting them against each other, because we see the last one standing, right, is Zulema. So it's almost like, was he supposed to take her out, and maybe he in a moment felt sorry? But this is also somebody who had no problem taking his niece and nephew out, right? So that part, I'm just like, would he get a conscience all of a sudden with Zulema? Or maybe they rated her higher in importance than JJ and Tylee. I don't know. I would hope not, right? I mean, that seems even more horrific. But I do think there's some kind of truth to this. Like, I mean, maybe he was trying to take her out.
Now I'm putting all the things together. I just really, more than ever, at the beginning I had a feeling that they had a really nefarious plan to do something to me and to Alex, or that we were the final piece, that I was the final piece to move to Vicksburg. And I feel that, by the grace of God, I didn't move there.
Exactly, because here's the thing. The plan could never entail or involve anyone who was involved with this being able to do exactly what they're doing now, which is telling on people, bringing light to the darkness of this. And so again, I do think there's some truth there. Obviously, we see Alex is no longer here. If we ever find out for sure, I mean, as it stands now, he died of natural causes, right? We can all have our own thoughts about that. That's technically what it is. Circumstantially, I just feel like it's such a coincidence, but hey, maybe he was the coincidence in this, ring of murder going on. I don't know. Okay. Overall, with this interview, to me, it's frustrating. Her her circling around answers, avoiding answers, deflecting, gaslighting, all this stuff. It's all very concerning. Now, obviously, I hope that when it comes down time for the trial, this is the assumption that yes, there is going to trial, so on and so forth, that whatever witnesses they use, even if they're unfortunately having to use some of these people here, they are taken seriously and they're able to help put Lori and Chad behind bars for the rest of their lives, hopefully, right? Or if it comes to the ultimate sentence, that too. Whatever the ultimate sentence can be for them and the circumstances that come out, that they are able to help get that for them. I do not think Zulema is being completely transparent. I do think she's still trying to cover for herself, cover tracks, things of this nature. I'm very curious to see what kind of evidence comes out on the stand when and if this does actually make it a trial, and to get the 100%, and not 100% because we'll probably never know, those of us who are just watching, but to get as much intel as we can to be able to say how much were they or not involved and things of this nature. So that's it. I hope you really enjoyed me walking through this, breaking it down, and that's it. We'll keep watching this case. Hopefully now Lori is going to be deemed competent and this can start moving on. You know, again, at the point of this recording, Mark Means has been taken away from the case, so maybe there'll be a little bit more of a serious level to it going on because it's a very serious case, right? And not these silly, little filings that he does and all this drama text and just the nonsense that he's brought to it. Anyways, again, thank you everybody who makes the Sofa Squad possible. I really appreciate it. And until we gather back around this sofa, I'll see you soon.